So I sold my stake in the restaurants and I took the year off. And then 2021, I got back into it. And towards third quarter or fourth quarter 2021, I decided, you know what, if I'm going to be serious in the finance industry, let's go ahead and jump out and really be serious and really, get a job and build a business or take that step. You got to cut off the previous life that I had. So that's when I officially announced that I retired from Culinary Yards, from being a chef, from my entire brand that I had, the company. I closed it and I went forward and I earned my licenses. I got some more to go, but I pretty much got enough licenses now to, run my practice, my financial advisory practice. And yeah, so now we're here. So now I went from being a chef, living a dream, my interpretation of my dream, to my new career and living my new dream. I hope I summed it up.
Man, nah, I love that, King. That's definitely powerful. In so many ways that you were a chef and now you're literally into the finance space, which we definitely are going to talk about that. I'm just trying to make sure we have our guests that are listening on Wisdom. Shout out to our Wisdom listeners that are listening in for today's episode. We're on the line with our VIP guest, Finance Keem, talking about why your current retirement plan won't work and also how to
Hmm.
develop financial security. Shout out to ExpressVPN. But back to our VIP guest, Finance Keem. Finance Keem, you know you got to talk to us, King, about like what are some of the skills, especially in the culinary arts. I know quite a few people that are friends and family the Le Cordon Blues. They've gone to
Hmm.
the other campuses. I can't recall some of the other ones, but they literally have told me that going into culinary arts and going into the food industry is brutal. Like not even just from all the shows that we see on television, but it really weeds you out to see if you're capable of actually going the distance. And you actually went the distance and became a chef and got certified in that industry. And so, like, how did you pivot your skill set from being in culinary arts to go into finance, and like talk to our audience about like what are some things that you still hold sacred as being in the finance space as a licensed financial advisor?
Yeah, yeah. So, um, as a chef, you do more than just cooking. You actually manage the establishment and everything like that. But to sum it all up, I would say, and I was naive to this. I didn't know this when I was a chef, but I learned this along the way. I would say that the culinary industry or the hospitality industry is the hardest industry by far to make a dollar. And what I mean by that is, uh, if you compare profit margins across the span of each industry, we are probably the least, because if you make 30 cents off of your dollar, that is great. That is phenomenal, right? Most people or most restaurants usually make about 10, 15, 20%, right? Profit. So that means every time you get a dollar, 80, 85% of that is out the door. And you're left with 70, you're left with about 15, 10 to 15 cents. And that's just not, you know, it's conducive because people are doing it. But if you look at the success rate out there, there's a lot more restaurants failing than there is, succeeding. And then on top of that, you have to worry about chargebacks or you know just customers disputing. You can't argue, and it's legally you can't prove that a customer didn't like your food. So I can cook the best steak in the world, exactly like you asked for it. And if you dispute and your bank, you say you didn't like it, or you dispute DoorDash or whatever the case is, um, they just give you the money back and they take it from us, no questions asked. There's not too much you can do about that. And then it's a predatory industry, so it's like dog eat dog. DoorDash, Uber Eats, and all of them, they charge about 30% uh, revenue to deliver to get on the platform. So that means if you're selling something for $30, they're taking $10 of it, and that's a lot of reasons why the prices are astronomical on these DoorDashes and Uber Eats and things like that. So on top of just having that 15 cents, imagine if you don't charge that extra 30%, at the 30%, and then they take it, and now you left with 5 cents. So it's definitely hard, and that was the pivot for me. And that was just the reason why I decided to make the pivot. I was spending a lot of time away from the family. Again, I just had a newborn child at that time, and I wanted just to do something where I could work less, make more, and also be at home more. And again, the reason why I pivoted is because I had another passion. So, for people who believe that your passion is can only be one thing, or you work your passion, or whatever, that's not true. You can like a lot of things, and you can pursue a lot of things, and maybe you could do it simultaneously, maybe you can't. But who's to say that you can't put one down and pick the other one up whenever you're ready? And so I am proof of that stereotype, that it's a myth. It's not true that you can only have one passion. Um, Sometimes people ask me to do things still, and I still do favors. I guess that will be me doing this simultaneously, but majority of my work now is in the finance industry. So, quick story about that. And when I was in a sophomore or junior in college, I got a refund check. And for people who don't know about refund checks, that's basically when you get a scholarship or where you get a grant or a loan or whatever, and it exceeds the amount that your tuition is, so you get a check back. And typically, what you're supposed to do with the money is give it back to the bank or pay down your loan, or put it, save it, or whatever. I chose to put it in the market, and I lost of like $2,000 in an hour, and that was really my first experience in the stock market at the time. And from that point on, I was like, nah, I got to get my get back. Like, I need that. I need my money back. And I had that chip on my shoulder, from that time. And then I took about 10 years off, and then I finally, got back into the markets. Um, and so that was just the way that I pivoted. But there are some things that translates over, some skills and qualities that translates over, as far as thinking on your feet. As a chef, there's a saying that we have: whatever can go wrong will go wrong. There's another saying, stuff like, it's better to have and not need than to need and not have. And so coming over to the finance industry, me, one, knowing that I haven't put in the hours, the 10,000 hours that some of these guys have. They went to school, and they spent years in this. I consider myself a baby, and so me, I'm soaking up everything. And even coming here today, I have notes on my phone, but it's better to have these notes and not need them than to need these notes and not have them. Stuff like that translates. And so I take a lot of the intangibles that I've learned from that industry and bring it over here. And it kind of gives me a different perspective about this industry. And I've seen that a lot of people who've been in this industry for a long time or brand new in this industry, but don't have another background to lean on, it's kind of a out of the box thinking type of thing. And I think that's the reason why, um, like you said, you looked at my Instagram. I think that's one of the reasons why my Instagram is attractive the way it is, and it's the way it blew up. In about 6 months, yeah, I got 10,000 followers, and I just started in this new industry. So I'm blessed. I recognize, I guess, talent. I recognize what I'm doing, and I don't take it for granted. So I'm just gonna keep pushing on, pushing on.
Yeah, no, that's that's a great backstory, especially when it comes to being in finance. The school that a lot of my friends went to, King, is Johnson and Wales.
Johnson and
I'm
Wales.
disappointed. I forgot that the one in Charlotte, and I think the other location in Miami. I believe a lot of
Yeah,
my friends
I got a
went through there,
story.
and they told me, yeah, they told me horror
Yep.
stories about Johnson and Wells. So, like, more power to you and all of the others that are listening that may have children, or you may even have come from a culinary arts background, like Keem is saying, it's not for the faint-hearted, and you do have to really stay locked in, because he said the burnout rate and the failure rate is astronomical when it comes to people that do not stay in that field. And so, like King, before we definitely wind down shortly, like talk to us about retirement. We know you work with a lot
Yeah,
of clients. We know that every buzzing about, especially for millennials, our generation, thinking that retirement is not going to be available, that
hmm
Social Security is not going to be available for people who are millennials by the time we look to retire in our 60s and up. And so, like, what is the buzz that you're hearing from the finance scope for retirement, and like, why should people not be playing around with their retirement, especially for those of us who are millennials or Gen Zers right
yeah,
now?
yeah, definitely. First thing, I have to say this is not financial advice. This is just my thoughts, opinions on the matter. Do your own research. Past performance don't is not indicative of future forecasts. And so, all that being said, I can give you two stats that will summarize exactly what you're asking for, and why we should be paying attention. So in the 1950, 16.5% of workers were paying into Social Security to support one recipient, right? And so when you think about that, the that means 16 people and a half, but let's just stick to 16 people work to support me when I retirement. So even if one person lose a job or don't go to work, I still got 14, 15 other people to rely on to support my retirement income based off of Social Security. If anyone could guess what that number is today, I'll just leave 4 seconds for you to think, like say in your head what you think the number would be. Um, but that number is 2.5 people today are working for a Social Security recipient. So that means if I take my example again, that's only 2.5. Let's stick with two people are working to support my retirement. So if Joe Schmo don't go to work, that means it's one person. If he gets into an accident or she, is pregnant and she stops working, what's going to happen? And so as the mortality rate increases, which means we're living longer, as the population is increasing, which means more people are having children,